On this week's edition of Gameball College Kickoff, we're going to recap a huge weekend that happened in college football. And also going into our second segment, we're going to also touch on the coaching carousel. We'll talk about some big moves that took place over the weekend as well. We have a special fan week question to answer as well. And our third segment is officially championship week. We're going to touch on some big games from Alabama to Georgia. Texas taking on Oklahoma, Clemson and Pittsburgh, Ohio State, and who would have thought Northwestern, out of any team who kind of came out of nowhere in that second half, playing in the Big Ten championship. It's going down. Game Ball College Kickoff begins now. What's happening, everyone? Welcome to Game Ball College Kickoff, where the football season never ends. I'm Marcus Young Genius Jenkins.
It's your boy, Michael Riley.
And, of course, we're going to hold it down for our brother Luke Harden, who's not with us. But, of course, we're going to have his predictions for championship week going in the third segment. Now, we hope that everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving. Mike, I believe you did.
So did I. And it was very wonderful. Smoked our very official turkey and ham, but it turned out well.
That's very good. Of course, shout out to all my family back home in Top City. So it was actually cool to be able to catch up with them, catch up with my siblings, my parents, got to see my nieces and nephews and cousins and all that good stuff. So definitely enjoyed that Thanksgiving. And of course, with Thanksgiving, there's only one thing that can always complement Thanksgiving, Mike, and of course, that's a week of football. And we got plenty to talk about with that. We're going to start off with a recap of Week 13. And it was a big week for college football. Some upsets definitely would be a fair assessment of what happened over the weekend, starting with Oklahoma and West Virginia. West Virginia 0-2 versus the state of Oklahoma, as they will fall to the Sooners by a score of 59-56. Had the opportunity to win that game, but unfortunately they would come up short in that contest.
At one point, I predicted the score to be 48-45, and I was exactly on the money, but it exceeded my expectations.
Hey, but you called it. Hey, credit's given where credit's due. The second game, we're going to touch on this a little bit here in just a second, and that is Washington State and their playoff hopes, and also representing the Pac-12, gone officially after losing to Washington by a score of 28-15. And once again, we'll touch on that game here in just a second. Also, no question, I think this is the game that kind of shocked the world. Kind of an upset, but kind of not. And that was Ohio State taking care of Michigan early and often and never really looked back in this game. 62-39, 62 points. Urban Meyer and company will put on Harbaugh and the Wolverines. And obviously, this would have to be something that would hurt their playoff chances, and we'll talk about that here in just a second as well. And also Notre Dame continued to impress, a close one. This wasn't a normal long margin of victory for the Fighting Irish. However, they would beat USC. We talked about this would be a potential trap game. They would survive this by a score of 24-17 over the Trojans. Starting with the first matchup, Mike, you definitely got to talk about this one. Washington taking care of Washington State. What really made the difference, obviously, Myles Gaskin, 80-yard touchdown run to start off the fourth quarter, giving them their second Pac-12 North title in 3 seasons. Mike, how was Washington able to take care of Washington State?
Well, they played good offensively. They ran the ball well and got out to an early lead and never looked back. Took advantage of Washington State mistakes offensively and defensively. Washington's defense played a lot better than Washington's offense, and they was able to make more plays. And it comes to show you that they were the veteran team despite the record, and they took care of business. Now, for Washington State, it was a good season. It was a good run, but the Pac-12 has been officially eliminated for the college playoff pictures. Washington State was their only hope of survival, and they was on a good and good thing going, and I felt like they was they was in the right direction. We all did, but we didn't see a lot of things coming. This one of them we didn't really see coming, and because due to Washington State's injury, especially at the offensive line, but they came up and showed out at Washington State, got the job done against their rivals to win that game and have bragging rights for the whole year. This one stings for Washington State because they worked their tails off to get to this point and to come up short and potentially be eliminated for the college football playoff really hurts. But they're still bowl eligible, but we'll have to see what type of bowl games they're going to get going forward. So I will ask the commissioner of the Big 12 next year, if you want to get more noticeable, recognized in the college football playoff, schedule some tougher opponents so you can show your resume to the committee like, hey, we here too, so we're going to be able to compete with these teams. So like, for instance, USC versus Alabama 2, Ohio State versus Washington, or another Washington versus Auburn game, and so on, so on. Schedule these tough games in the beginning so that way if you do win, if you do get your name to playoff picture, if you do win out, your chances of getting to the college playoffs are higher than anything. So that's what the Pac-12 needs, is to have scheduled difficult teams so they can be able to be recognized that we can't compete with the best instead of the odd man out. So second year in a row, no surprise, the college football playoff doesn't have a Pac-12 team in it.
Now, touching on what you mentioned with the strengthening of the schedule of the conference in general, do you think, like, the way that Washington State kind of came out of nowhere this year, of course, Washington playing well, also, do you think that would make a bigger case for that competition?
I think so. It would make a bigger case, and also not to have like easy teams. You can have some easier schedules, but if you want to being the best and beat the best, schedule a little tougher competition, like some Big 12s, Washington State, I'm just throwing this out there, versus Texas. I think that would be a good matchup.
That would, I agree.
Washington State versus Notre Dame, so on, so on. Or we could say USC versus Clemson. Get your name out there. I'm just throwing out some examples to where, okay, we want to be taken serious in the Pac-12. So that is the Pac-12's downfall, is not getting tougher schedules for the playoff committee to look at and to be recognized. Okay, Pac-12 has a legitimate shot in getting it.
All right, and a great season overall for the Pac-12. UCLA also played well this year. This conference definitely seems like they're on the up and up. But
despite their record, but they have been playing a little bit better ball lately.
All right, and not only that, also I think another thing for this weekend had to be spoiler. And this was definitely one of those games. Once again, unfortunately, Pac-12 will not be represented in the college football playoff. But then we move to the second matchup, and we're going to go to the Big Ten. Michigan seated at number 4, playoff implications on the line. They run into an Ohio State team that kind of played like the Ohio State that we expected all season. We know they were kind of up and down a little bit, but they showed up at home against Michigan.
I did not expect, nobody expected it.
Not at all.
None. I expected Michigan to get their revenge because they was on a revenge tour and get their revenge, their loss against Ohio State. What woke up Ohio State? Where did this come from? How come they haven't played like this all season long until it gets to the rivalry week where everybody's disrespecting you, all this, for you to finally play a great game? I'm like, where did this come from? Are we going to see this Ohio State that beat Michigan like this against Northwestern, or another spoiler? We don't know. But Ohio State, everybody got some crow to eat, and we have crows to eat to do as well. So we're going to give respect where respect is due, and credit up to Ohio State. Credit up to Urban Meyer for getting this team prepared, because he knew that their season was on the line. He knew that if they lose this game, they're not going to the 14 playoff or to the Big Ten championship. So they came, they saw, they took care of business. They was the first ones to strike on offense, and they exposed Michigan's defense and by playing them doing crossing routes, because them crossing routes was open all game long. It was just like, and Michigan had a lot of missed tackles you rarely see, and their offense was anemic and had a debacle. So Ohio State offensively, they took care of business. Now defense, where did the defense come from? I mean, they balled out. We have not seen this defense balled out in such a long while. Yes, they did surrender 39 points, close to 40. That's still kind of an issue. But their defense shut down Michigan's running game and forced Michigan to be one-dimensional offense. For Michigan, this is no excuse. You had everything going for you, and you ran into the big wall, and you folded big time, and you got your rear end kicked in clean till the teeth came out of it. That's what happened. I'm just saying, I'm just like, Michigan, they got bullied and they got their lunch money stolen from school from Ohio State. That's what happened. All of them players got their lunch money stolen from Ohio State in Columbus for their school lunch money Saturday, and that's what happened. And now people are wondering is what happens next.
Right.
For Jim Harbaugh, who's 0-4, I think 0-4, 0-5, something like that against Ohio State. So, and there's been a lot of questions where should he keep his job or not. Jim Harbaugh, he does not need to go nowhere from Michigan because he has built that program from the ground up. It's just unfortunate that Ohio State was the way better team. And if he can find a good quarterback to go along with that offensive defense, and we also still have early recruiting signing that is next month in December, which is not far away. So they still got some pieces in play, but they just need to find out one quarterback that could take them to the hump. If they can find out, I ain't got nothing against Shane Patterson, but they really need to do some soul searching on a quarterback that goes well with that system. If they can find that quarterback that's not like a transfer, just like a actual recruiting quarterback, Michigan would be dangerous. And next year, they're probably going on a revenge tour part 2, including at home in Ann Arbor when they take on Ohio State. So we'll just have to see how it plays out, but they're going to have to swallow this one for a whole year. And to see that slip away, to see your playoff dreams gone by, it's going to sting for Michigan, and they're not going to let it go that easy.
Absolutely, and they were right there at the finish line, and that's what makes it bad. They were right there. Had they won this game against Ohio State, you have the championship game right after that come playoffs. So, I mean, just to lose it right there at the end, like you said, I mean, it's definitely going to hurt for these Wolverines. And that's going to do it for us for the first segment. Coming up, we're going to touch on the coaching carousel in our second segment, as well as having a special fan week question. You don't want to miss that. And, of course, coming in the third segment, championship week, we'll talk about the top 4 matchups in that as well. Gameball calls kickoff. We'll be back in a moment. What's happening, everyone? Welcome back to Gameball Calls Kickoff, where the football season never ends. Now, in the second segment, round and around we go again. The coaching carousel does continue in college football. Of course, this is happening, of course, with the college football season. Basically, almost there at the finish line and coming to a close. North Carolina would also make a big change. We also saw this as Texas Tech Cliff Kingsbury, North Carolina's Larry Fedora, Maryland's DJ Durkin. All these teams followed in the footsteps of firing their head coach. North Carolina, however, they bring back a previous coach, and that is Mack Brown, who did coach the Tar Heels from 1988 to 1997. He also coached at Texas and would have, from 1998 to 2013, he would win a national title back in 2005. Was Mack back at North Carolina? Is this a good fit for the Tar Heels?
Yes, it is, because Mack Brown, back in the day before he took the Texas job, he was coaching from North Carolina from 88 to 97, which that was almost a decade. This is a very good fit, and a lot of people felt disrespected and that he left, that they had a potential national contender title team with North Carolina when he was there. He knows the area very well, and he's detail-oriented in his coaching, and he's also a good recruiter. So it does not surprise me, but Mack Brown is back at home where he once started. He wants to resurrect his coaching career by going to North Carolina, because when he was at Texas, he had a lot of success as well as national title, bringing in Vic Young and a lot of good players. Jamal Charles, a former Chiefs player, is just so on and so on. And also Lyman Sweet, a wide receiver. Then it didn't end so well with him towards his ending career at Texas. So now he took some time off and be with his family, all that. But now he's back in the coaching game, and I feel like he'll do some good going back to his where he's very first started coaching at, as North Carolina. So what a way to go back and finish your coaching career where you first started at, from the late 80s to out to the late 90s. And this is a very good fit, and I think Mack Brown will do wonders with those players, and the players can relate to Mack Brown by taking some time off and watching and see how the offense progress and defense as well. So this is a no-brainer, good hire. And I think, in my opinion, that once they get to the full Mack Brown recruiting style, the team that he wants, they could easily challenge Clemson for the ACC title.
All right. And the second question I want to ask you also, while we're staying on that, are there any other coaches that would be good fits in new schools with this coaching carousel going on right now?
For me, Texas Tech, I would reach out to Dave Doran or North Carolina State, because he is doing wonders with that program. He started from the ground up. He knows how to recruit, and he can hit some of the recruiting areas well. Especially in the southern parts of areas, Florida, Georgia, and some of Mississippi, all that, because they're right in that region. And also, he can hit some Texas recruits as well. So I will go after him or Neil Brown. Those are going to be the hottest top two candidates going into next year's season. And same thing can be said about Maryland and the Big Ten. Who they going to hire? Are they going to keep their intern coach and make him to a potential full coach, or are they going to go elsewhere? It's just how players respond. So if I'm Maryland, going through after that loss, that offensive lineman, that tragedy where he passed out in the 100 temperature degree weather in practice, you got to start over. You got to get rid of the whole coaching staff who's under DJ Durkin and just start over. In my opinion, they should either go after Dave Doran, Neil Brown, or some of the other coaches who's trying to be on the come up. And you also look at Toledo's head coach as well. And you also look at Jim Levin, Oregon's defensive coordinator, as a coach. So these are the top two hottest candidates could be into next year. So teams, it better start calling now, because they're not going to be around for long. And you also got early signing recruiting, which is next month. That matters. So if you're going to hire a coach, you need to do it now.
All right. it's going to be very busy for the next couple of months in college football, even with the games going on, of course, championship week, bowl games coming after that, the national championship.
Then you also have the full-fledged recruiting signing in February. So you have an early one in December, then you got the actual one in February. So it's going to be busy, and teams need to start acting now.
All right. Once again, Mack Brown, the new head coach, old and new head coach of the North Carolina Tar Heels, of course, bringing that success from, once again, 1988 to 1997, national championship with Texas back in 05. So imagine, obviously, with that, having that championship experience, the expectations will definitely be pretty high for the Tar Heels going into next year.
I think he can handle it well, and he'll bring in a lot of recruits, and there might be some steals from the recruits with Mack Brown going back to his coaching background and being the ACC, so don't be surprised.
All right. And staying on the second segment, we also have another special Fan Week question. A big shout out to Ted in Topeka, who will provide us with this week's Fan Week question. And here is that question of the week.
All right, that is a very interesting question, a very good question. Before I start, what do you think about that question of Bill Snyder? Should K-State keep him or move on from him?
To be honest, I think it is time for them to move on. I think so. Bill Snyder, I mean, you can't take away what he's meant to Kansas State and that community. They have the Bill Snyder Family Stadium named after him. I mean, Hall of Fame coach. I mean, the accolades go on and on. But just the culture over the last maybe 3 or 4 years just hasn't been the same. We're used to seeing Kansas State strong in the top 25 bowl games, and we haven't seen that. And, I mean, you could just definitely tell this is just a different time for Kansas State and a different generation of players. And, I mean, it's not to take away anything from Bill Snyder. I mean, I think as far as the expectations that have come with Kansas State, I think he's done his job in regards to the expectations that come with being a Wildcat. There's nothing wrong with him riding off into the sunset. I think he'll get an honorable celebration for him. And
he's already in the Hall of Fame,
absolutely.
College Football Hall of Fame.
And I think the Kansas State community will once again do everything they can to just show their appreciation from him. But not to go on and on, but I think that, in my opinion, it's time for something different.
Well, I'm going to have to agree with you, but they did just sign him a 5-year contract extension not too long ago this year. But it is time to move on for the Bill Snyder era. But for me, I feel like the University of Kansas State is like Bill Snyder's, to me, it's like he's their forgotten son. He's been there since day one throughout the struggle of the worst of the worst. He put a lot of time and the effort, not only into the community, but building that program from the ground up when he took over as head coach in 1988. So he did a lot of wonderful things, and there was one, I remember correctly, either it was 97 or 98, there was a national contender championship team until they lost to Texas A&M in the Big 12 title game with Michael Bishop as the quarterback and the crew and so on, and Lieber as the linebacker. So, yeah, it is time to say goodbye to Bill Snyder. It's time to let him go because Kansas State is so dedicated to him. It just seems like it's Bill Snyder and nothing else.
Right, yeah.
And he has had success, both success in the last few years, but it's just like this year, it was a lot of expectations of them being a top 5 team in the Big 12 and all that. And they lost the game against Iowa State last Saturday. So, and they're not bowl eligible for first time in a long time under Bill Snyder's era. So he has missed bowl games, but not a lot of bowl games he has missed. Every year he's always in a bowl game.
Right.
So there is some good name coaches out there that want to coach, But I feel like K-State is like, we're going to ride with him until he retires, and he wants his son to take over the program. And I don't know how that's going to play out. So it's time to move on for the Bill Snyder's era from Kansas State. I mean, he is dedicated to that community so hard. He did a lot of good things in that community in Manhattan, Kansas. And he is a Hall of Famer, College Football Hall of Fame. And I feel like he has nothing else to prove. But he came short of some national title opportunities, especially when they had Colin Klein as their quarterback to go along with Tyler Lockett and the crew and the good defense, the cornerback Moses Malone, and so on and so on. And they fell short when they lost to Baylor in that game. So it is time to move on for the Bill Snyder era and to start completely over. And I don't know what K-State is going to do, but in our opinion, it's time to move on from the Bill Snyder era. Everybody else is cleaning house, so you might as well join the party and clean house as well.
I mean, do you honestly think, though, really quickly, that they are going to? You saw, once again, Les Miles is at KU now. A lot of big moves. Mac Brown returns to North Carolina. Do you think, I mean, they did sign a 5-year extension, but do you honestly think behind the scenes that they'll at least take the opportunity to kind of sit down and look at what's out there?
I think they could, but I don't know. But they are dedicated to Bill Snyder. They're going to ride with Bill Snyder all the way until he retires or when his days is numbered. But it's time to move on from the Bill Snyder era. And you start to hear some of the K-State fans and people in Manhattan chirping a little bit and saying, where like these coaches' name could be a good fit for K-State. He could be a good fit for K-State, and so on and so on. But in my opinion, end of the day, they're gonna stick with Bill Snyder after they gave him that contract extension. You
think they're almost like afraid to to let him go? How could we? Like, I couldn't imagine firing the guy that built Kansas State. Like, do you kind of feel like they kind of have that in the back of their mind? Like, yes, there's no way we could do that.
Absolutely, because as I was saying earlier, he is their forgotten son. So what he has done for this program, it means a lot to us. Is Bill Snyder or nothing. So that's in their mind. That's how they feel. But at the end of the day, you need to start winning games, start competing for championships. And that's the era of we're moving to now. And so it's time to move on for the Bill Snyder era.
All right. And once again, thank you, Ted from Topeka, for that question. And that's going to do it for the second segment on Gameball College Kickoff. Going into the third segment, ladies and gentlemen, it is championship week officially. We got big matchups to talk about when we come back. Stick around. Gameball College Kickoff. We'll be back in a moment.
Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned, folks.
Yes, sir. What's happening, everyone? Welcome back to Gameball College Kickoff, where the football season never ends. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are down to the nitty-gritty of the college football season. It is championship week, and we have four big matches to talk about, starting with number 14 Texas and number 6 Alabama for the rights of the
Oklahoma,
for the rights of the Big 12 championship. Break down this matchup for us.
Red Rivalry Part 2.
Yes.
This game has everything on the line for Oklahoma, and Oklahoma knows that. Their offense is going to score points, but is their defense going to keep Texas offense from scoring a lot of points? That was the lacking issue that happened last game when these two teams play. They both hate each other's, and they both want to go out there and win again for the bragging rights, but this time, instead of the normal rivalry game, this is bigger than that. This is for the Big 12 championship. And I don't think that two teams played in the championship conference in 1 year has rarely happened. So we get to see that happen. It's going to be exciting, fun matchup and all that. For the rivalry part 2, for Texas to upset Oklahoma, just watch the tape of Kansas, how they put up 40 points against Oklahoma, run the ball effectively, and complete some passes and play good defense. That's all. And defensively, you got to stop Kyle Murray and the Oklahoma's offense because they're going to score quick. Mm-hmm. The only way to control that and stop that is to run the ball efficiently and make the clock your best friend. You have to win time of possessions to keep Oklahoma's offense on the sideline from scoring. If you can do that and keep your defense off the field and keep it fresh, you'll be able to win this game. For Oklahoma, they're going to score points. I'm not going to get to the offensive part. It's their defense. Their defense has been suspect all season long. That's the one thing that held them back last year when they made it to college football playoff, and that's the one thing that's holding them back this year, and that's the reason why they lost in round 1 in the Red River rivalry against their rivals, Texas. So for them, it's defense. Can defense step up big to stop Texas offense? I'm not worried about Oklahoma's offense because they're going to score points. It's the defense that is the biggest issue. Will the defense rise up? We'll find out and see on Saturday for championship weekend.
All right, Pac-12 championship, 2 great teams, Texas and Oklahoma. That's going to take us to the SEC championship game, and I think this actually might be one of the best games of the year as well. Alabama taking on Georgia, 2 great defenses and 2 great offenses.
Part 2 for the national championship game, and everything is riding on the line for both teams.
All right, go ahead. Continue to break down this matchup as this is a huge game.
This is a huge game. This is one that Georgia has been waiting for all year because last year in the national championship game, they had a 10-point lead until Nick Saban made a gutsy call to switch quarterbacks from Jalen Hurts to Tula. I can't pronounce his last name. I'm not going to even try. So it was a gutsy call. They ended up winning national championship, and this stings for Georgia. It really hurts them, and they had to swallow that pill for the whole year. But now they get their rematch against Alabama. Win up this game, will likely win the SEC and be in the college football playoff guarantee. So everything is on the line for both teams. They cannot lose. If they lose, will not be in the college football playoffs. But for Alabama, you never know with the college football playoff committee because they're biased and they love Alabama. They think Alabama football lives matter. We want Alabama ratings, But the year that Alabama did not play a national championship, it was Florida State versus Auburn. That's one of the highest rating games in the national championship era. It was the last year of the BCS national championship before it went to the playoff. So let me remind you that it was one of the highest rated games in the national championship era. Auburn versus Florida State. Now let's get back into it. Season's on the line for both teams, basically. Whoever wins, they're going to be in the college football playoff and along with the SEC champions. So it's going to come down to both teams' defenses. Which defenses is going to make more plays? They both know each other, especially Kirby Smart, who was under Nick Saban's assistant wing. He knows how to do things against Nick Saban's team, and he has success. He almost had it last year, but he let it slip away. So I bet you going to film study, they're going to be replaying that national championship over and over and over again all week, driving the players nuts so they can get their mind, this is the team we want. We want to beat you right here, right now. It's our time, and I cannot wait till this matchup for Saturday.
It's going to be interesting to see what both teams learn from that national championship experience. And, I mean, I would imagine Nick Saban is going to be somewhere in his man cave and I could imagine him just staying up the entire week, just looking at games.
Why do you think he's the greatest college coach of all time with 6 national championship rings?
True story.
5 with Alabama, 1 with LSU. And study habits, that's probably what he does. He's probably at home studying right now.
And the thing is, of course, you know, they escaped in the national championship against Georgia. So, I mean, I would imagine Nick Saban is going to have a lot of questions to answer, just like he did against LSU. How's he going to answer those questions against Georgia? That is something that I can't wait to see with this game in particular. We're going to move from the SEC to the ACC. Clemson taking on number 24 Pittsburgh. Go ahead and break down this matchup for us.
Well, we all know what Clemson is, but if I'm Clemson, I do not overlook Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh can ball. They have a really talented defense. Despite what their record says, they can ball. I mean, they run the ball effectively. That head coach has changed the culture at Pitt. I mean, they're playing good on defense and being consistent in the passing game. That's what you want to do against a very talented team like Clemson. But they really have to run the ball to keep that offense of Clemson on the sideline and win heavily of time of possession. And you have to score touchdowns. You cannot settle for field goals against Clemson or they'll make you pay, because they are very explosive and they're very well executed offense, defense, and special teams. Your special teams for Pittsburgh has to play great. If they don't play great, they don't win this game on special teams, because I think special teams is the key factor. Because Clemson's special teams, they could tackle well on kickoff, and they can return well on a kickoff and punt return. That is their bread and butter. They're working with special teams all the time. So special team for Pittsburgh is the key to win this game.
ACC Championship, Clemson. So not necessarily, they're going to be the favorite regardless, but it's not going to be as easy as it may look on paper.
Right.
All right, and we're going to go from the ACC to the Big Ten. Ohio State coming off of a monster win against Michigan on Saturday. They're taking on number 19 Northwestern for the Big Ten championship. What do you think about this matchup?
Which Ohio State team's going to show up?
Great question.
Is the Ohio State team going to show that demolished Michigan, that debacle loss for them, gave them the big win 62-39? Or we're going to see the Ohio State team that barely snuck out against Maryland by 1 point? We'll find out and see, because Northwestern, they can play some pretty good ball, and they don't go down that easy. They're a tough team, and they can tackle well, they run the ball well, and they're consistent in the passing game. So for Ohio State, you have to get off a fast start like you did against Michigan. Take advantage of Northwestern's defense, especially the secondary. See where they're going to, and Haskins is putting up Heisman numbers this year. He is balling out of his mind. And he is a true pocket passer, and I think he'll excel at the next level. Well, that's another time for another day. So for Ohio State, keep it going offensively. You have to get off a fast start. And defensively, you got to be physical and be disciplined. And that's what they did. They did not allow Michigan rushing game to be a factor, and they made up a one-dimensional offense. So Ohio State's defense is going to have to replay that against Northwestern's offense. For Northwestern to win, you have to run the ball against Ohio State's throats. You can't beat one-dimensional. That's their goal. You got to have some be consistent in the passing game. Mix up the play calling a little bit. Throw some wrinkles that Ohio State has never seen before. And defensively, you got to force Ohio State to be one-dimensional. You have to stop the running game, force Ohio State into a third and long situation to where they have to rely on their passing more. If they can do that, they'll get the upset win, and we'll find out, see on Saturday.
All right, has Ohio State finally come to life? We're going to find out. Big Ten Championship. And with that being said, that's going to take us to the predictions part of the episode. And, of course, you're going to have our brother Luke Hartnett's prediction as well. Starting with the Big 12 Championship, Texas and Oklahoma. Who you got winning?
Luke Harnett has Oklahoma winning. I have Oklahoma winning as well in a slightly slim margin. I'm going to go out on a limb. They're both going to score 50. Oklahoma 55. Texas 51, rematch of the Red River rivalry, but in the Big 12, Oklahoma avenges their loss against Texas, 55-51 for the Big 12 championship.
I'm going with Oklahoma as well. The way that they put up numbers against West Virginia, 59 points to be exact, even though they allowed West Virginia to put up 56 on them as well. So that kind of makes you,
I don't trust both defenses.
Exactly where I was going with that. But I think Oklahoma will find a way to get it done. The Sooners will win the Big 12 championship. SEC, Alabama, and Georgia. Who y'all got?
Luke is riding with Alabama, but I'm going with the Bulldogs of Georgia to upset Alabama, get their revenge from the national championship game that they lost last year. They let a 10-point lead slide. Georgia knows where everything is at. They know what's on the line. And this game means more to Georgia than Alabama, in their opinion. They know what's right on the line. They know what they have to do to get into the 14 playoff and get to the national championship. They was fourth quarter away from winning the national championship in a long time. It's been a long time coming for the Georgia Bulldogs to win a championship since Herschel Walker. That's the last time Georgia has won a national championship, if I'm right. So it's been a long time, and Georgia is way long overdue. It's their time. I'm going with Georgia in a close game. I'm going to say the score 30-27. Georgia Bulldogs are the SEC champions.
And I also want to kind of point out, remember the way too early predictions that we did way back in the spring? I said Georgia was my favorite to win the national championship, and I did say that. However, it's going to come down to adjustments. This is student versus pupil, and this one, it's tough. I really don't think there's a wrong answer to this game. Just the way that Alabama took care of LSU, I thought was impressive. I'm going to say, and I'm going to stick to my prediction. I was going to go with Alabama, but I'm going to stick to my guns. And I said last season that Georgia was going to be my favorite team to win the national championship. So I'm going to ride with that. And I'm going to say Georgia will upset the Crimson Tide. They will win the SEC championship, and they will find their way into the playoffs. ACC championship, Clemson and Pittsburgh. Who y'all got in this one?
Luke has Clemson to win, but I'm going to say it's going to be a close game early. In the first half, I'm going to say 10-7 Clemson. Then Clemson routs Pittsburgh in the second half with a blowout. I'm going to say 38-17 Clemson beats Pittsburgh, because Clemson is too talented. And that freshman quarterback who I was high on early parts of the season, I said, watch out for this kid named Trevor Lawrence. He can ball. He's been balling since he got the starting job. And their defense, oh my goodness, it's a NFL elite defense, but only in the college football. So I'm going to say Clemson wins 38-17 over Pittsburgh. It'll be close in the first half, but Clemson eases their way in the second half.
I agree with it. I'm not going to say anything else on it. The way you describe the game, I would see that too. Pittsburgh, they're thinking upset. They know what's on the line just like Clemson. But Clemson more experienced, more talented. They'll get it done in that second half. Now, this one is actually interesting, though, because this could also be – I want to ask you if this is a trap game for Ohio State. Is that a fair assessment to say for the Big Ten Championship?
That is fair. Which Ohio State team are we going to see? I'm picking Ohio State, but is this the Ohio State team that's going to play against Maryland, or this is the Ohio State team that demolished Michigan? Which one will show up? I don't know. It'll be a close, high-scoring game, first part of the game, but I think Ohio State last part take care of business and win by 10 points. That's fair. So I say the score, Ohio State wins the Big Ten Championship 38-28. And Luke has Ohio State winning as well. And we'll have to see Sunday what the playoff committee does. If Ohio State wins, they have a bigger case to get into the college football playoff. And if Alabama loses, Ohio State has a tougher schedule than Alabama, and they want to Big Ten championship conference, so that make their strongly case. But we don't know what the playoff committee is going to do Sunday. Everybody's going to attend it. Winter has came, like the show Game of Thrones. Winter is coming. Winter already came in college football. Chaos is going to happen everywhere in the college football playoff selection Sunday, and there's going to be a big uproar if somebody does not get in. We'll find out Sunday, but Ohio State wins 38-28 over Northwestern.
I'm going to tell you right now, if Alabama loses, ladies and gentlemen, do not be surprised if Alabama still ends up in the playoffs. That's all I'm going to say.
That's what I'm saying.
Please don't be surprised because, like you said, ratings, money, politics. We talked about this many times last season.
It happens every year.
Yes. But I'm interested to see where Ohio State is mentally, emotionally after that big win. That's a huge win. Did Ohio State finally come to life? Urban Meyer taking out Jim Harbaugh. We know the preparation that had to have gone into that. There's a lot at stake. Urban Meyer was fired up the whole entire game of that. Where's the rest of his team?
That rivalry runs deep.
Yes, it does.
Very, very deep, like I was explaining last couple episodes ago on how Ohio State and Michigan be started.
I'm gonna say I think it's gonna be a close game as well. But obviously, I think most people would have Ohio State favored. I agree with that as well. I got Ohio State, winning the Big Ten championship.
All right, that will do it. Facebook, you can follow us on Gameball College Kickoff / Gameball NFL End Zone. Email us on our email, gck.gnfle@gmail.com. Follow us on our official Twitter page at GCK_GNFLE. You can follow your boy, all caps, at Gameball_Mike MYKE. You also get your merchandise on our clothing line website at tokendesignstopeka.com/Gameball. That's TOKAN token, not toucan, designstopeka.com/Gameball. And you can also follow us on our Instagram at GCK_GNFLE. Like, subscribe, thumbs up, thumbs down. My right to your left, your right to your left, vice versa. Hit that YouTube button at our channel at GCK.GNFLE on our YouTube channel. When you hit subscribe, make sure you hit that notification button to get updates and alerts on our postage. And I'm going to pass it on to my brother Marcus.
All right. Jovelle Entertainment, capital JOVELLE Entertainment. You can find us on Twitter, Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram. Jovelle Entertainment. Also, for any inquiries, JovelleEntertainment@gmail.com.
And you also follow our other brother, Luke Harnett, Facebook, Instagram as Lou Harnett, and on Twitter as Lou Harnett 2, folks. I'm Michael Riley.
I'm Marcus Young Genius Jenkins.
This is Gameball College Kickoff, where the football season never ends. Peace, and we are out. And what's the next coming up?
Always be on the lookout for Gameball Info End Zone coming your way as well.